This is a great matchup, man. The Lions lost last week to the Eagles, 38-35. The Commanders are coming off an impressive win against the Jaguars, man, where Carson Wentz looked really good in that game. Y'all had the running game clicking, spreading the ball around a whole lot. Love what I saw from the rookie Jahan Dotson in this game, man. Lions quarterback Jared Goff didn't enjoy his best outing versus the Eagles. He was 11 of 23. He's usually efficient. That number kind of scared me a little bit there. He had one touchdown and an extremely costly interception late in that game. Deandre Swift really showed up and showed out in that game. I like what I saw from him against the Eagles. I want to say it was 144 yards on the ground on 15 carries, man, and a touchdown. He's dealing with an ankle injury coming into this game, so that might yield well for you guys. Aiden Hutchinson was pretty quiet in that game, so we're still waiting on him to see if he's going to fall in category or in line with the Bosas and, the likes of those kind of edge rushers and stuff like that. But let's get right to it, man. I know we don't got a lot of time for this one. Give me the roadmaps. Give me the nuggets. GPS queued up. Which route are we taking for the Commanders to get a win against the Lions here in week 2?
So we're going to start with an appetizer, and the appetizer is going to be a couple of nuggets, and then we're going to give y'all the roadmap. First of all, the Detroit Lions are favored in this game.
I know. He said, first of all.
I'm just going to throw that out there.
That is wild, bro.
Do you know how long it's been since they've been a favorite in a football game?
I'm going to say 6 years.
Oh, that would be really bad. But it's been it's been 24 games since they were favored.
Seasons. Okay.
24 games since they've been favored, which is just absolutely crazy. So, obviously there's been a lot of talk around the national media and, I guess bookkeepers as well that that the Washington football team is not who we think they are, or at least I think they are. So we're going to see on the field this Sunday in Detroit. Detroit has won 5 of the last 6 games against the Washington teams. I guess that
Washington teams.
I guess that includes the Redskins,
the year
Commanders.
3-3 last year too. So, and with the week 1 loss, so now they're 3-4. But you said how many of the last 4?
5 out of the last 6 games. The Lions have won. Yeah, so that's definitely they got our number. We trying to this is definitely probably a trap game for bettors. Like a lot of people. Like that's how it comes out.
The Lions looked a little more impressive in week 1 simply because of the matchup. The Eagles are coming in extremely hyped right now with all the transactions they made in the offseason. And Washington beat a team that last year was the worst team pretty much in the NFL. I believe they had the worst record in the league. Yeah, they made some upgrades. People expect the Jaguars to be better this year. But I think maybe that's why they got the Lions favored in this game.
Yeah, I think that people are expecting the Lions to be better. And I mean, they didn't look awful against Philadelphia. We both think that Philadelphia is probably going to we picked them to win the division. If you guys haven't seen that, you can go back and check out our stat prediction show. It's our first show of this season. But, I mean, people were expecting Detroit to be better. I think a lot of that comes off of Hard Knocks too, But obviously they do have some young talent. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown came right back into the swing of things in the first game. He looks really good. We talked about Deandre Swift. Deandre Swift is a weapon. And Deandre Swift, to me, is the scariest player on this offense because of his ability to catch the ball at the backfield. Yeah. We already know how our linebackers, in Washington are. So it's like, are they going to be able to keep up with Deandre Swift coming out the backfield? That's the big question right there. So, you got to keep your eye out on Deandre Swift. And Washington's run defense wasn't that good when you look at yards per carry. And that's important because you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up defensively to be able to make big stops on third down. They were giving up 6.8 yards per carry in that first game. They gave up 6.8 yards per carry to the Jacksonville Jaguars. That was 30th in the National Football League after the first week. Detroit, on the other hand, was averaging 6.5 yards per carry, which was 4th best in the National Football League after the first week. So that is going to be the big matchup right there. The Detroit running game, because you can't forget about Jamal Williams coming out the backfield also. He can do a little bit of everything
last
also.
Week, I believe, as well.
So they got a nice little tandem between the two of them. And listen, the offensive line for the Detroit Lions is much improved. Their downfall has been and continues to be, it looks like after the first week, their defense. Although Jeff Okudah, who a lot of people might have forgotten about, who was a 3rd overall pick in the 2020 draft, he looked pretty good in that first game. He had a career high 10 tackles also in that game. So, you definitely want to be aware of where he is on the field, especially if Carson Wentz is going to be on that roller coaster and he, there's a possibility he throws an interception or two. Start Wentzing, yes. But I mean, talking about Wentz, 4 touchdowns. Nobody else threw more touchdowns in week 1 besides Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes threw 5 touchdowns. Carson Wentz threw 4 touchdowns, and then there's everybody else.
Josh Allen had what, 3 or was it 4?
Josh Allen either had 3 or 2. I think it was 3.
Yeah,
because Carson Wentz was the only person who had 4 touchdowns, and then he threw for 305 yards, which is the 4th most of any quarterback in week 1. So Carson Wentz definitely, put up some good numbers. It's just about can we, capitalize and not make the mistakes. Now, rushing-wise, we only ran the ball 28 times. I want to see a little bit more against a Detroit defense that, they were giving up a lot of yards to Philadelphia. I mean, we all know Philadelphia is the number 1 rushing team in the league, but Detroit allowed the 3rd most yards of any team in week 1. They gave up 216 yards on the ground. So as far as my roadmap to victory, it's a little bit simpler in these first couple of weeks, because I need more data to get the longitude and latitude and the latitude and longitude.
The beardisms, the longitudes and the chatitudes. So you're not avoiding highways on this GPS route. We're taking 95 straight, and we're gonna get there.
Yeah, unless of course you get to that Bay Bridge traffic and you gotta use Waze to hit that side road. All right, so number 1 on the roadmap to victory for the Washington Commanders is going to be the turnovers, okay? We managed to get away week 1 with 3 turnovers. Yeah. And I've come to the conclusion that I can't just be like, okay, if you want to win the game, you can't have any turnovers. That's just we're not in reality at that point. So I'm setting the number at 2, okay?
2. As long as you can stay under.
I'll take a push if I get 4 touchdowns out of Carson Wentz. I'll take a push. Okay, but we got to try to keep it below 2 on the turnovers. That's super important. Obviously you'll take some of those interceptions with 4 touchdowns. Obviously timing in the game has a lot to do with things like that. But I definitely want to keep the turnovers that low.
Now I'll tell you what I don't like about the 2 turnovers before you go to your number 2 stop on the roadmap is if you are relying on the running game. I expect less turnovers than that. I think 1 would be good. 2, if you get the 2, you're going to really have Detroit really on your heels here, and they're going to have a good chance to win this game if they're going to abide by this game plan to run the ball a lot more. Now, last week, Washington, their balance was pretty decent. They
60-40?
passed it 60-40, and I like that. I think that is a good balance. It's a decent way to we're used to Washington running the ball so much, but with a new quarterback like this who can actually do some things, I say you kind of like feel this out. He had 2 turnovers in the first game. I wouldn't mind 60-40 again and see what he does, just to know what you can do moving forward. Kind of reminds me of what Sirianni was doing with the Eagles last year early on, trying to throw the ball, seeing the capabilities of Jalen Hurts and seeing how many can we actually get away with and maybe still win a game. Giants fans know that 3 was too many when they played us that first time around. We ended up beating them 13-7. So I just wanted to bring that up with the roadmap. Just the first stop, when we stop to go get gas, I think maybe it's going to be 1 less turnover.
I mean, listen, I want 0. But we're being optimistically realistic this season, right?
Facts,
I think that's what we're doing. Big shout out to Anthony, the bluegrass picker, for the $5 super chat. Says, listen, insert beardism, funny authentic quip, Beard's epic laugh. Thanks, fellas.
He said funny authentic quip. Hey, dog, that's classic. We appreciate that $5 super chat, Anthony, man. Good looking, bro.
All right. Next stop on the roadmap.
Okay, next stop on the roadmap.
I got a little sidetracked because Mo just texted me that I forgot to send my picks in for the football pool.
Oh, for the pool, right.
Yeah, so I know that you are in contact with him right now.
Yeah, I told them all to come pull up if they wanted to watch the show and whatnot.
Okay, let him know that we're live right now, and I will make sure that I send my picks before kickoff.
Got you.
Okay?
I got
Thank you.
I got you.
So the second roadmap stop is going to be, we just talked about running the football. We got to run the ball. Detroit, like I said, gave up the 3rd most yards allowed last week, and that was 216 yards. So I'm looking for Antonio Gibson by himself, not even throwing in J.D. McKissick. I'm looking for Antonio Gibson to go for over 100 yards just on the ground.
Ooh, I like that. Getting back to his old form.
I would like to see a Antonio Gibson, Saquon-like game. Get close to that 200-yard mark. But no, I just want to see. I want to see over 100 yards because he looked really good running the ball too. I think it was kind of like something that just kind of got pushed to the back because of how well he was catching the ball out of the backfield. But there was this one particular play in week 1 where they were backed up in their own territory, like close to the goal line, and he took it right up the middle, and it was like a 14, 15-yard run, which was huge because that gets you out of that, backed up into your own end zone right there sort of situation. And to be able to do it in between the tackles and to hold on to the football, I think that was a huge run as far as confidence goes that for Antonio Gibson moving forward. So I want to be able to see him get 100 yards on the ground. That would be beneficial to the team. And obviously when you're able to run the ball, it opens up the passing game. And so I think that that's something that, we saw can work in week 1 with Dotson, Samuel, McLaurin, Logan Thomas. The weapons are there, but you got to have some sort of run game to balance it out. I think you were right, though, about the 60-40 being a good balance. As long as you don't get into that 70-30,
right?
Usually that 70-30 means you're either like really behind or you're, just forcing the issue too much. So I want to see Antonio Gibson get at least 100 yards on the ground. Now, third down defense and third down offense. We talk about this every week, and last week, Washington was amazing on third downs. So third down defensively, they had the 5th best third down defense in week 1 in the NFL. They only allowed a 25% conversion rate on third downs to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And offensively, they were the 2nd best team in the National Football League on converting third downs at 70% in that first week. So if you can maintain numbers around there, you're putting yourself into a really good situation because those third downs are what kills drives or keeps drives alive if you're on the defensive side of the ball.
Facts.
So those are huge, stats that I always look at is the third down conversion offensively and defensively. Then you got to stop Deandre Swift. You have to. Because
obvious point too, he's the guy on that team. He is the leader of that team.
Because out the backfield, running, catching, and our linebackers, how our linebackers are. Our linebackers are not the best when it comes to coverage. So I can see, Deandre Swift out there just cooking if it comes down to it. So you got to be able to contain on the outsides. You got to be able to contain the flats and not like over pursuing the quarterbacks as well.
Alvin Kamara just got traded in my league for Terry McLaurin. Interesting. Let's get this super chat one time before you move on to the next one, too.
Big shout out to Renee for the $10 super chat. Says football is back. Lots of fantasy action tonight. Your show is fire, fellas. Keep it up. Appreciate that, Renee. Shout out. Hail to the W, as my man Paulie would say. And then last but certainly not least is the injury report. Cole Holcomb got hurt in practice today. Talking about linebackers.
How serious?
I have not gotten an update yet. I just know that currently him, Cameron Curl, and Jonathan Allen are all listed as questionable. So those are the injuries. Those are, all 3 defensive injuries. All 3 guys that you're going to need if you want to stop Amon-Ra St. Brown, if you want to stop DeAndre Swift. So, don't forget about TJ Hawkinson.
And injury-wise, too, y'all lost that rookie, too.
For the season.
His first name. You lost him for the season, too. So you're losing a lot of help on the interior right now, especially if Jonathan Allen can't get out there.
Yeah, so and then how a tight end can expose a bad linebacking core, and TJ Hawkinson is no joke. He always kind of flies under the radar, so it's definitely something to keep your eye on right there.
I believe TJ Hawkinson was. Yeah,
sure was. So that's my roadmap. I think it sounds basic, but there's a lot of things in there that are fundamentally might be basic to a team like Kansas City, Buffalo, the Buccaneers, but to Washington. those things have to be done before you can start thinking about anything else, putting up 40 points or, defense getting 9 sacks like I used to predict here on Authentic and The Beard.
Yeah.
You
got
know,
that
so
7 at one time, I remember.
I did get that 7 at one time. I mean, that would be great, fantastic. But I think, like I said, Detroit's offensive line is much improved this year. It's just the defensive side of the ball that's their big question mark. So we have to be able to attack them, and we have to be able to contain Deandre Swift if we want to have a chance at winning this game. I do think Washington Commanders are going to start the season off at 2-0.
That's what's up. Well, before you make a score prediction, let me give you a couple more points in this game for Washington. I think you might need to add to the GPS. We got a couple stops we got to make. Now, you talked about Amon-Ra St. Brown, and we know he's developing into a major weapon right now. Last week, 8 catches for 64 yards and 1 touchdown. I think him and Jamal Williams are going to have to be the second guy on this team going into Washington here. Or actually, it's in Detroit, but playing against Washington here. But I wanted to bring up a little nugget here about Amon-Ra St. Brown. Most consecutive games with 8+ receptions and a touchdown in NFL history. He's number 1 on that list right now. Behind him was T.J. Husmanzada with 5 in 2007. Behind him was Odell Beckham with 4 in 2014. And behind him is Chris Carter from 1999 with 4. So I think that's a major statistic for a guy who's in his second year, I believe, coming into the league and just causing havoc right now quietly. And I think that has a lot to do with the Detroit market, to be honest, because not a lot of people talking about the Lions, also their previous history with their records. They haven't been a great team, so people not talking about it that much. So I do think your secondary is going to be, in for a surprise here, or tested for sure. And William Jackson last week led y'all with 9 tackles. I thought that was a very interesting stat, because you don't want to see your cornerbacks making a lot of tackles. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but they're going to have to step it up in this game. Derek Forrest, if Curl's going to be out again, Derek Forrest, we're going to need even a better game, because we talked about this on the recap show on Tuesday. Derek Forrest had a really solid game, and he made some solid plays, but it wasn't consistent all the way throughout. There was some up, there was some down in that game from Derek Forrest, but he's a young guy, second-year player out of Cincinnati, so I'd look for him to, elevate his play actually in this game more than he did last week. We see he's a hitter. We see he can cover. The pass deflections he had last week were incredible. So I do think your secondary is going to be tested. They're probably the group that I'm most worried about in this game. But I like y'all chances, man. I mean, I think the Lions came out. They surprised a bit week 1 a little bit against the Eagles, but I don't think they're really a 35-point team. I think the Eagles kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit. I think the Eagles had 0 touchdowns in that fourth quarter against the Lions as well, too, where they scored 14, got back in that game. So for me, it's all about getting that lead early, not taking your foot off the gas. Don't allow an early lead to force you to just try to run the rock and try to drain clock. Apply pressure with Carson Wentz. He looked fantastic week 1. Even with the 2 mistakes, the one throw, sometimes you could get away with a throw like that, one-on-one, 10-yard kind of outside route. It was like a 10-yard out, maybe a 10-yard comeback to the outside shoulder where he just missed inside a little bit. So nothing egregious about Carson Wentz interceptions. He looks like, dare I say, that was like the best he's looked in a really long time.
It's one of his best games. It's by far his best game since before his injury when he tore his ACL in his 2017 year, I believe that was. You know what else is interesting? I totally forgot to bring up. This is a matchup between former number 1 and number 2 picks in the NFL draft.
That's what's up.
Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, 2 new teams.
Now was that the same draft?
Same draft, 1 and 2.
Man, time been flying on me. That's crazy. That's a 2016 draft, I believe.
2016 draft, I believe. Yep.
Sheesh, man. Time is definitely flying, man. But yeah, that those points and then the run pass balance, which I think you talked about a good bit there. I think that's very important. Both of these teams were perfect in the red zone last week too, so somebody's got to break that as well too. We got to see one of these teams step up in the red zone. You want to give your score first? Or you want me to go ahead and get mine?
No, go ahead. I'll let you give your score first, since I already told everybody we're going 2-0.
Yeah, I think y'all are going to go 2-0 as well, man. I like the Commanders in this matchup. Shout out to Pierre Garçon, my fellow Haitian brother one time. I know he's a Commander, but that's my fellow Haitian brother. He said it right when y'all won last week's game. He said, man, the Commanders are going to get off to 2-0, and he thanked the schedule gods, which I know both of our teams need to thank this year. So far, looking really good for both of our teams starting off the season. I got the Commanders taking this one. I got them taking this one a little bit kind of like the Jaguars game. Jaguars game was 28-22. I think we'll sprinkle a field goal in there. Joey Sly didn't get a chance to step on the field and show his boot, so I think we got to throw a field goal in there one time. I'm going to go with I'm going to go 2 field goals from Sly, and the Commanders are going to win this one 27-17.
I got 31-21 Washington Commanders. We're going to get that over 48.5 points.
Ooh, 48.5 in that one. I like that. I like that.
Yes.
And the Lions are favored by 2 in this matchup, which is definitely a little bit surprising, but I think we got to chalk that up to the week 1 performances and against the opponents that they had.
Awthentik and The Beard, streaming live every Tuesday, every Thursday at 7 p.m.